The most influential map set of 2025 has already been ranked, and at the time of recording, it's only March. Bloxi's set of Freedom Dive is the collection of over 10 years of mapping history. Its journey to rank status broke more barriers in the mapping sphere than any other map before it.
If I speak, I am in big trouble.
And represents a pivotal turning point in the philosophy of the ranked section. The flagship difficulty of the set, the iconic Arles difficulty, needs no introduction. Today, I will chronicle the decade-long adventure of ranking the ultimate Freedom Dive map set.
No!
The first and correct thing to do when hosting a set is gaining permission to use the song and any assets in the background and storyboard. Freedom Dive is an officially licensed song on Zai's featured artist listing, so permission was already granted to map the song. The background came next, which took a frustratingly long time to construct. According to Bloxi, he found the original sky background used in the 2008 BMS chart from a reverse image search. He found the image on an obscure Japanese blog that was last updated likely before I was born. With the source of the sky successfully located, there was a missing piece left before it could be considered finished. Every Freedom Dive set has featured the same girl, who has become a community icon due to the song's popularity. Bloxi received permission from the original artist of the girl to place her in the background. He also contacted Zai's record label on behalf of the original artist for permission to use the character in the map's background as well. The record label was fine with it because the background was being used for a fan project. She was actually never given a proper name by the artist on Pixiv, only being called Chanci, which just translates to angel. The origin of the name Karante wasn't well documented, but is likely a fan name that was given to the character from within the BMS community that the artist later embraced. Translating her name to English provides the word current. However, if the characters are reversed, her name is now translated as falling. Free falling, as one could say. Perhaps a freedom dive? This background was only one piece of the final product. The map also features a storyboard created solely by Bloxi, using elements that were created years ago for his Glorious Crown map. Heavily inspired by the original BMS video from 2008, it was created with only the editor's storyboarding tools. Modern, graphics-intensive storyboards present in other maps use a litany of external tools and are not possible to make within the editor itself. The simplistic scope of tools offered by the editor required Bloxi to exercise his creativity, using only basic transitions, movements, and rotation. Make sure to play the map at least once with video and storyboard enabled to experience his hard work. Out of the 20 total difficulties on the set, 4 of them compose a Taiko set. Taiko operates very differently from standard, where the play area obfuscates a decent portion of the background and the song's title card. To compensate for this back in the day, a Taiko template was created by the community in order to shift these elements down accordingly. Unfortunately, this template has been prohibited by the ranking criteria because the black bar where the song's title appeared was always misplaced unless you used the exact same aspect ratio the background was intended for. Bloxi circumvented this rule by positioning a modified background and title card in the correct place through the storyboard, which scales correctly based on your resolution. The Ki of the Taiko difficulties feature this iconic template, and along with that, the Ura Oni difficulty specifically uses a 1-to-1 copy-pasted section from the original Inner Oni, which is such a cool reference. Going above and beyond for the set, the Taiko difficulties have a custom skin you can play with. A new mascot, affectionately named Karante Don, was created for the skin whose name takes inspiration from the Taiko no Tatsujin mascot, Don-chan. Drawn and animated by Crystal Suikun, the original creator of Osu Taiko's mascot Pippi Don, Karante Don jumps, cheers, and hits drums with you as you're playing along. Her presence adds even more life to the already lively Taiko interface and represents the meticulous attention to detail in stylizing the entire set. It was challenging enough compiling the visual assets, but that was nothing compared to the obstacles preventing the map from being ranked. Every single map that is ranked needs to be nominated by 2 beatmap nominators, abbreviated as BNs, and must abide by the ranking criteria. Extra modes on the set require an additional BN on top of the 2 for the primary game mode. Bloxi wanted to assemble the ultimate Freedom Dive set, and invited multiple prolific mappers to add their existing difficulties from the graveyard. Among those mappers was OnosakiHito, who was featured as the Taiko spread for Nakagawa Kanan set back in 2012. He actually mapped 4 difficulties at the time, but since Nakagawa only mapped 2 standard difficulties, guest mapping contribution rules dictated that Ono was only allowed to have 2 difficulties himself. As a compromise, the remaining 2 difficulties were featured in the description of the map without a leaderboard. Returning to the present day, Bloxi mapped 4 difficulties on his set, allowing Ono to include his full spread. With 16 standard difficulties and 4 Taiko difficulties, prospective BNs would have over an hour of drain time to review. Bloxi would need to find 2 people who wouldn't be discouraged from checking so much content, along with a Taiko BN who would take a significant risk on Ono's mapping style from a completely different era of the game. Ono was proud of being featured on this set, and dedicated a lot of work to polishing his difficulties for the modern day. According to him, getting your 13-year-old maps ranked after all is one of the greatest satisfactions you can have as a mapper. But that wasn't enough, since there was one more version of the song that he wanted to bring to the ranked section. Arles Freedom Dive is a 9.5-star amalgamation of space streams, cross-screen jumps, and crazy stream corners that pushes the boundaries of mechanical difficulty. Originally uploaded in 2015, it gains notoriety from Shigatora's SS fail, uploaded to Circle People in 2017, and as the hardest Freedom Dive difficulty. With a reputation for player-oriented maps that rarely attempted to exercise mapping concepts, Arles maps were usually not considered for the ranked section and only given leaderboards by players through the loved section. This was about to change. There's nothing in the ranking criteria which states that loved maps cannot be ranked. In fact, maps such as Ghost Rule, Flicker, and Chrono Diver are prominent examples of maps successfully reaching ranked after being loved first. The process involved the mapper expressing their intent to rank the map to the loved team, who would remove the map from the loved section and allow the mapper to push for ranked. The ranking criteria still applies here, so if there was anything violating the criteria, it would need to be addressed first. This usually meant creating a full spread for previously loved maps, because the mapper only made 1 difficulty for a song below 5 minutes. Unfortunately, not all maps that underwent this process reached the rank section, with one of the most notable examples being Nakagawa Kanon's set of Glorious Crown. Initially loved in 2018, it was removed only a month later to try and push for rank. The original top difficulty included ridiculous difficulty spikes and aim control, with Space 225 BPM doubles garnering the most attention before the start of the last chorus. While not a bad map, the quality heavily suffered from being speed mapped in 10 hours. In an attempt to make the map more rankable, Nakagawa Kanon heavily nerfed the difficulty across its entire length and kept pushing, but the set ultimately never reached the rank section. The set was eventually deleted. With the Glorious Crown debacle serving as a cautionary tale, there was tremendous apprehension from mappers about removing maps from love status. The status quo was not challenged for 5 years until map sets like Flicker were removed to go for ranked status. The set had amassed millions of plays, which sparked debate about resetting its current leaderboard. Flicker was ultimately ranked without any major issues, receiving widespread praise from the community and solidifying its legendary status. Later in 2024, a mapper named Wen was in the process of ranking his set of Ange de Blanc Pur. He had witnessed Flicker get ranked and had a radical idea for his set. What if he took the existing loved difficulty by Barking Mad Dog and added it to his set that he was pushing for ranked while leaving the original difficulty loved? He received explicit permission from both Barking Mad Dog and Peppy himself, and the map was ranked without incident on Christmas Eve in 2024. Taking inspiration from Ange de Blanc Pur, Bloxi asked Arles for his permission to add his difficulty to the set. This would be the best of both worlds for each mapper. Arles wouldn't have to create a full set in order to rank his difficulty, and Bloxi would have a completely fleshed out set with difficulties accommodating all skill levels of players. Peppy was consulted for his permission and he gave the green light. The difficulty was added to the set and allowed to be pushed for rank, while retaining the iconic scores on the old version. Some changes needed to be made to make the map suitable for rank, and I'm making a comparison video between the 2 difficulties that will be uploaded shortly. The video will be linked in the description when it's uploaded. Receiving permission to rank an existing loved map was vital work, but the challenges were far from over for the set. Privately, there was controversy within the beatmap nominators about letting a map that favors overmapping for the sake of sheer difficulty at the expense of quality into the ranked section. Because of previous community concerns and mapping drama, internal discussions were prompted about changing their standards to better align with players' perspectives. It's a polarizing issue within the group. A sizable portion of BNs have no issue with player-oriented maps, while others want to adhere to a more traditional perception of only allowing maps with high-quality concepts and execution rank. Regardless, no one wants to be labeled as a fun killer and slandered for their concerns. Action taken by the beatmap nominators would have significantly delayed the set getting ranked, and since there wasn't anything inherently unrankable about the map, the set was allowed to proceed. Publicly, the most controversial part about ranking this set wasn't the ridiculously high difficulty, but rather the name of the difficulty itself. Arles confirmed himself that Arles as a difficulty name was derived from a shortened version of Arlequin91, the first username he used before switching to Lafna, and then his current username, Elkirilia. I apologize for my very likely mispronunciation of both names. In the general ranking criteria, it specifically lists that the names of difficulties need to include an indicator about its difficulty and cannot be solely a username. This rule didn't always exist, with mappers like Val0108 and Blue Dragon labeling their difficulties as 0108 and No Guard respectively. It was implemented after an influx of sets with only mapper names as the difficulty names were ranked during PPV1 when star rating was absolutely broken. Anything harder than a modern hard was usually classified as the maximum of 5 stars and sorted randomly. It was impossible to determine how hard a difficulty was on a set until you played it. Fun fact, this rating system is the reason why Nakagawa Kanon wrote Hell Diff. This is easy diff but hell difficult about his 4 dimensions difficulty in the description of his Freedom Dive set. For whatever reason, 4 dimensions was rated as less than 5 stars at the time, while the another difficulty earned the 5-star designation. Therefore, the objectively much harder difficulty would actually appear first in the set, which was a fun surprise for anyone trying to play the map in 2012. As a solution, a rule was added stating that difficulty names cannot solely consist of 1 or more usernames. There wasn't much motivation to change the rule because of a separate rule that describes how difficulties need to have a clear and consistent naming scheme with a specific carve-out for mappers to name the top difficulty or difficulties whatever they wanted. This is what most mappers cared about, and mappers had no issue adding difficulty indicators to lower difficulties on a set. However, with the presence of Arles as the name of the top difficulty, these rules were conflicting with each other. Which rule took priority? The fact that difficulty names cannot solely consist of a username, or that the top difficulty is excluded from naming schemes and can be named whatever the mapper wants. Bloxi's intention was to rank the map while preserving the original intent of Arles and changing as little as possible, which included the difficulty name. A discussion post was made on the map thread to ponder these questions, and it was evident that there were 2 different perspectives. The first one stated that Arles was such an iconic name that it's already associated with high difficulty. The rule about how the top difficulty could be named whatever the mapper wanted applied here too. It was the hardest difficulty on the set. The second perspective aligned closer with the ranking criteria by trying to find a compromise of keeping Arles in the difficulty name while indicating possession from the mapper. People who were suggesting alternatives admitted that the rule was obsolete, but still thought that having possession in a difficulty name was a good idea for people who didn't know what the name Arles is associated with. Initially, a compromise was reached between both perspectives. Use Arles as the difficulty name, but append 2025 in parentheses to the end as a way to distinguish it from the loved version. The map was qualified this way before being disqualified a few days later for minor issues found throughout the set. While the set was back in pending, Bloxi reopened the discussion post and shot for the stars. Why not name it solely Arles? This initiated a vote from the nominator assessment team about whether it was allowable or not. After a suspenseful few days, their verdict was given. They would allow it. A ranking criteria proposal was composed by Kevin Sella to remove the rule about how a difficulty's name must not solely consist of 1 or more usernames. Many others provided their feedback. and the proposal was run by Peppy to be approved. He disagreed with the change, but didn't block it either from going through due to the overwhelming support from the NAT. Bloxi had successfully incited the discussion for the change of a ranking criteria rule. Changes to the ranking criteria are rare. It takes significant community support, as demonstrated above, and willingness from the OS staff to adopt new ideas. With the rule adopted on the website and all issues resolved on the set, the difficulty name was changed to purely Arles and requalified shortly after. No more issues were posted on the thread, and the set seamlessly passed into the rank section on January 17th, 2025. Top players immediately seized the opportunity and started competing for the #1 score on the Arles difficulty. Emrek has ultimately claimed the position, having submitted multiple FC chokes with over 2,000 combo. At the time of writing, his personal best is within 50 combo of an FC, but he chain misses on the last stream. Raikuho possesses the other notable score on this difficulty, with a staggering 99.42% accuracy and 4 less misses than Emrek. Impressive in their own right, all other passes on the map fall off steeply from there, including a score from Xylice using his girlfriend's fingers to play the map. What? Although we've discussed Arles difficulty at length, it's not the only one on the set. The set has 6 difficulties over 7 stars. Raikuho has a 99.79% FC on the second top difficulty, worth 961 PP, and only matched by a secret box's hidden choke. Nihil's 4 dimensions is AR9 with an array of unorthodox patterns and rhythms. The leaderboard is dominated by a secret box's hidden hard rock choke, along with solid runs from Mindfrost ID and Raikuho. I can only do so much justice in this video by showing you clips of these replays. You can watch them in full with the links in the description below.
No! No! He answers the ending!
This script has been written in close collaboration with Bloxi and OnosakiHito. Bloxi is the Mapset's creator, and OnosakiHito created the Taiko spread of the set, along with having extensive knowledge of the game mode. They have been terrific in helping me compose this script and confirming all the presented information is accurate. Thank you both for your time, feedback, and patience with me while I was writing this script. Also, make sure to join my new Discord since my old one got hacked. Thanks for watching.